Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Wednesdays wherever you may be across this great country or this great land. Off the top here for everyone, I want you to know this, and I'll repeat it a couple of times during this show. Everything that we sell at Outkick, so you can go to outkick.com, everything that is on the shop there. For the rest of the week, all of the proceeds will go to Tennessee tornado relief. Over a lot of people suffering here in the state of Tennessee. 25 deaths so far attributed to the storm. If you go to outkick.com and you go into our shop, anything that you buy, all of the proceeds, and a lot of you are buying right now, a lot of different things, all of the proceeds from that shop will go to tornado relief in the state of Tennessee. So that is something that we are doing through Outkick. You can find it easily. You can go check it out. Obviously, there are a lot of people hurting in my home state, in my home city, and in the region beyond the state of Tennessee, including Cookeville, where most of the deaths actually ended up occurring. Cookeville, for those of you who don't know, about halfway between Nashville and Knoxville if you're traveling on I-40 East. All right, lots to get to. Joe Biden locks down the Democratic nomination. Tom Brady, drama. Every different direction you can imagine. I'm not going to lie, I love all of this. Jürgen Klopp, the Liverpool manager, with incredible advice for everybody out there who's asking him about coronavirus. Spike Lee going head-to-head with the Knicks. And Tennessee went on the road and won at Kentucky. It's March now, so we can talk about college basketball. I'm looking forward to going to a bunch of the SEC basketball tournament games next week in Nashville. But we begin with Super Tuesday. Big story. Joe Biden wins 10 states. Bernie Sanders wins 4 states. Biden drastically exceeded expectation, winning in Maine, winning in Minnesota, winning in Massachusetts. All 3 of those states he was an underdog entering. He also managed to win Texas. Only states that Bernie Sanders won were California, Colorado, Utah, and his home state of Vermont. So, big time move by Joe Biden. If you follow the odds market, Joe Biden is now a prohibitive favorite to be the Democratic nominee. I said it last night. You can go watch my entire show reaction here. The Democrats executed a code red. They executed an Order 66 from Star Wars. They wiped out Bernie Sanders' campaign. Mayor Pete, Amy Klobuchar had substantial impacts in terms of driving the turnout and support for Joe Biden. And also earlier today, Michael Bloomberg, who spent $500 million plus, including some of that money that he spent on Outkick, spent $500 million plus, and now he is going to drop out of the race. He has endorsed Joe Biden. That leaves only 3 really viable candidates, and I'm being very generous to include Elizabeth Warren as a viable candidate. The truth of the matter is it's now down to Biden versus Bernie. The moderates have all coalesced, and Biden is going to be your nominee, barring some sort of health issue that could arise for Joe Biden. He will be your nominee to take on Donald Trump. I think it's a fantastic Super Tuesday result. As I speak to you right now and the stock market approaches close, the stock market has reacted in a very positive way. It is up over 1,000 points today. The return, the stock market climbing back up, will not receive anywhere near the attention. I told you to buy. I told you the stocks that I owned. It was an overreaction, I believe, to the coronavirus, but also to fears that a socialist may be having a chance to win the Democratic nomination and run for president. Joe Biden's win is, I think, important for the United States in terms of dialing down the rancor. I watched his speech last night as he celebrated all the states that he won, and I think whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, this is a really good result. And I'll tell you what I did. I went to, we have an open primary in Tennessee, and I am anti-Bernie Sanders. All of you know that. I could have voted in the Republican primary, but there's no reason to vote in the Republican primary. So I voted in the Democratic primary, and I voted for Joe Biden. But primarily, I was voting against Bernie Sanders because I'm a capitalist, and I wanted to eliminate the chances as best I could as a voter of Bernie Sanders being the nominee for the Democratic Party. I think you got to give credit to black voters. I don't think they are getting enough credit here for finally breaking the moderate logjam. In South Carolina, they stood steadfastly behind Joe Biden. They supported him over socialist Bernie Sanders, who made a major outreach to them, over Tom Steyer, who tried to buy their votes, over Michael Bloomberg, who tried to buy their votes as well. They were incredibly loyal, and they turned the tide, and they won Joe Biden, I believe, the Democratic nomination. All over the South, moderates like me came out and supported Joe Biden, but the backbone of the Joe Biden support, his firewall, was black supporters in South Carolina. So I'm not going to decide who I'm going to vote for until the election and everything else. And honestly, it won't matter because I'm in Tennessee and Donald Trump is going to win the election easily. But I think that it's being undercovered how much black voters turned the tide in shooting down socialism and rejecting that and embracing capitalism. I believe that it was a huge statement that they made. I think we deserve a lot of credit, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, for Bernie Sanders getting shot down. I was very happy about it. I'm a capitalist. The stock market was happy about it. Again, as we speak right now, the stock market has surged over 1,000 points today, and I think much of that is a little bit of the coronavirus fears easing. The United States seems to be handling the coronavirus pretty well, and the spread has not been as rapid as many had forecast. In fact, the World Health Organization came out today and said that the coronavirus is not as easy to spread as the flu is. It's more deadly, but it's not as easy to spread as the flu based on all the evidence that they have out there. China seems to have gotten their outbreak under control. There are still issues in South Korea and also in Iran for sure. And there's a little bit of an issue in Washington State. But by and large, the CDC seems to be responding well to this. I don't think it's going to be a massive issue in the United States. And I believe the stock market is reacting accordingly. But again, a big win for capitalists that Bernie Sanders managed to lose this election. That is, I believe, a big, big deal. All right, Tom Brady. Tom Brady, I can't get enough of the Tom Brady drama. We haven't seen very many free agent dramas, the likes of what's going on with Tom Brady right now. We saw it with Peyton Manning. We saw it with Brett Favre. Back in the early days, for you old school fans, we saw it a little bit with Reggie White, and that's led to one of the all-time great quotes, which is Reggie White said he was going to sign with whoever God told him to sign with, and I don't even remember who said it. It might have been Deion Sanders. He says, amazing how often God tells players to sign with whoever offers them the most money. Such a great quote. It happens time after time after time. I'm going to wait. I'm going to pray on it. I'm going to ask God who I should sign with, and it's amazing how often God comes out and says, you know what? You should go to who's offering you the most money. It's just amazing how that works out. God's a capitalist too, I guess. But the latest rumor, they're threefold. One, Tom Brady to the 49ers. Now, this is crazy because it would require Jimmy Garoppolo being traded either back to the Patriots or elsewhere to clear up space for Tom Brady because the Patriots can't trade him because he is a unrestricted free agent come March the 18th. So that is exactly 2 weeks from today. He can start negotiating with other teams on March 15th, but there's an unrestricted free agency waiting for him on March 18th. So maybe that makes sense. I think the 49ers probably win the Super Bowl if they have Tom Brady instead of Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think Brady would have missed Sanders on the fourth quarter when he was wide open in the center of the field. I don't think he would have overshot there. So maybe that's a possibility that Tom Brady to the 49ers could lead to a Super Bowl. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is somewhere around the 13th or 14th best quarterback in the NFL. That's not an indictment of Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe one day he can move into the top 10, but I think there's a big gap between him and, let's say, the Patrick Mahomes of the world. And so I could see that making some sense. Right before I came on here, evidently we had Dana White from the UFC who was doing an Instagram live show, and he called Tom Brady and asked him to come play for the Raiders. I don't see that as being very likely. I still think the most likely destination for Tom Brady is the Titans. But the other report that's out there is that Brady and Belichick have spoken, and it's been all business, and their relationship has not been particularly strong. And so those are the three-part Tom Brady rumors of today. Brady to the 49ers. Brady and Belichick have spoken. It was all business in the conversation. And Dana White talking to Tom Brady and trying to persuade him to come play for the Oakland Raiders. I follow this drama like crazy. I can't get enough of it, and not just because it involves my team, but because the Tennessee Titans, but because I think it sets the table for everything that potentially is going to happen in NFL free agency. Until we know what happens with Brady, we're not going to know how everything else breaks down, much like until we know what happens with Tua, we're unlikely to know what's going to happen at the top of the NFL draft. Both quarterbacks holding their respective eras, the NFL draft and the free agency market in general, hostage by their decision. So I can't get enough of this Brady drama. Got to give props to Jürgen Klopp. If you guys haven't seen this, he's the manager of Liverpool, one of the greatest coaches in any sport, in all of the world. And we're going to clip this and share it for all of you. It's wildly circulating on social media since I shared it this morning. Jürgen Klopp was asked about his opinions on the coronavirus, and he gave an amazing answer that I think a lot of people support, which is, I don't know. I'm not that much of an expert on the coronavirus, and I'm obviously paraphrasing. He did it in a German accent, which makes it even better. He said, I'm a guy in a cap with a bad beard. How do I know about what the rules are on the coronavirus? That's not my responsibility. And I think there were so many people out there who responded favorably to it because so many people in the world of sports feel like athletes and coaches, they have to be an expert on everything. I talk about subjects that I actually have a decent knowledge or opinion base on, but a lot of times you guys ask me about questions in the comments and I'll say, I don't know. Frankly, I'm not that well versed in that. I don't feel comfortable having a strong opinion on it, and I think that's a good answer, right? There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm not really sure. I don't know enough about that subject. I don't really have a level of knowledge or investment in time that I have spent on this, rather than use athletes and coaches like we have athletes. And like we have actors and actresses. And what's interesting is maybe it's the rise of social media. Maybe it's the desperation of the blogosphere in general to have articles to write. But it seems to me that when I was younger, people would regularly denigrate actors and actresses who got involved aggressively in politics and say, what in the world do you know? You're just an actor or an actress. And now it seems to me that we praise actors and actresses aggressively for getting involved in political issues, which they may not know very much about. And we also do that for athletes. And so as a result, a lot of people have gotten seduced into talking about subjects that they really aren't that familiar with. And when you have, let's say, Greg Popovich and Steve Kerr opining on everything in the world of politics, and then they don't have anything at all to say about China, when China is out there and they are creating, clearly, when they are creating major issues of First Amendment speech and also basic democracy is being rejected, they don't speak out on that. It creates the spectacle of massive hypocrisy. Because if you think you know enough about, let's say, prison reform, that you need to be talking about prison reform all the time in your post-game press conference, that's different, right? And I think there's a difference. And let me just say this. There's a difference to me between talking about that in your sport and doing it in your private life. I don't begrudge anybody who wants to show up at a rally of a politician or donate money or be on the stage for them outside of the world of politics. But I think what's happened is we've gotten into this idea that every single coach and player in their post-game press conferences or pre-game or whatever else is going to opine on serious issues that go on in the world at large. And I just think a lot of us found it refreshing that Jürgen Klopp said, I don't know anything about this. So we're going to play that 45-second video or so for you. We also played it on the radio show this morning. And I think it speaks to a desire for people to not feel the need to opine on every single issue under the sun. And I realize that's ironic for me on some level because I do opine on a lot of things. That's my job. My job is to share my opinion. What I try to make it is an informed opinion. So if I get a fact wrong or I get a data point wrong that leads to a hypothesis, I'm genuinely bothered by it. And if you listen to my radio show, I go on and correct myself if it turns out that I found out anything wrong. There's a difference between, and a lot of people don't understand this, facts and opinions, right? To me, a good opinion should be rooted in facts that are indisputably accurate. And so a lot of the time I think we end up at opinions. If you follow my social media feeds, you know that people have been criticizing me like, oh, you're an employee of Disney or you're an employee of Sinclair. And every now and then I jump in and read the comments. I'm like, I believe that conspiracy theories exist, but at least verify the basic foundations of your factual analysis before you get to your opinion, right? That's all I ask for. All right, Tennessee, it's March now. Tennessee went on the road. It was an incredibly gratifying night for me. I got to watch Bernie Sanders go down in flames, and I got to watch Tennessee beat Kentucky on the road in Rupp, come back from a 17-point deficit. Really enjoyable night for me, and it was a whale of a performance by John Fulkerson, a.k.a. Fulky. Went for 27 points. Tennessee's only won in Rupp Arena 6 times, but this is a big win in what has been a relatively disappointing season for Tennessee. Lots of injuries, sort of a bridge season between now and when they're going to be really good next year. Kentucky had been on fire. This was an outstanding win for Tennessee. Sets the table potentially for a late bubble run. I'm going to go watch the SEC basketball tournament next week in Nashville. And by the way, on Friday the 13th, we're having an event at the Downtown Sporting Club, 411 Broadway, the bar that I own a stake in. If you are going to be either in downtown Nashville or attending the SEC basketball tournament from 2 to 7 p.m., middle of the afternoon essentially, if you're looking for a place to go hang, we're going to have drink specials. We're going to be having a good time. I'm going to be on the stage with my buddy Chad Withrow answering your questions and talking with everybody about everything under the sun. It should be a lot of fun. Spike Lee is feuding with the Knicks now. This is what the Knicks do. They haven't been relevant in 20 years. All they managed to do is create drama for themselves, feuding with Charles Oakley. Now they're feuding with Spike Lee over what location he should enter the Knicks facility from. This is so dumb. And this is where I sit back and say, a lot of teams just need a director of common sense. I could be a really good director of common sense. If you think about what I do on a regular basis, it's use my judgment to advocate for the opinions that I agree with. If I were defining one particular team, I would be like, what are you guys doing feuding with Charles Oakley? What are you doing feuding with Spike Lee? How are you so incompetent that you are alienating some of the most loyal fans that you have, who all they want to do is see James Dolan be able to actually put a winner on the court? I don't understand it at all. This is just such a mess from a public relations perspective and totally unnecessary. I'm not on Spike Lee or the Knicks side. I'm against the Knicks. I just think the Knicks make consistently bad decisions when it comes to every single possible decision they could have to make. I'm not an expert on the particular ramifications of this dispute other than what I've read, but I'm anti the Knicks because I've seen what they've done with Charles Oakley, because I've seen what they've done now with Spike Lee, and because I've seen what they've done to the fan base in general over the last 20 years. Okay, stock market finishes, by the way, while we're live on the show. A fundamental repudiation and rejection of socialism. They reward everybody out there. Finishes up over 1,100 points, nearly 1,200 points, as the coronavirus fears, as I told you, likely exaggerated, and also as Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign goes up in smoke. All right, I got to get ready for Lock It In, which will be on live at 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central, 2:30 Mountain, 1:30 Pacific. I appreciate all of you. I want to say this as I leave: 2 things. One, and I meant to mention this earlier, our ratings for radio in January were up 52% over last January. I am now competing against myself, which is tough. Our ratings last January compared to this January on the radio program, which you can listen to all over the country, coast to coast, up 52% over last year. Most people out there comfortable if they can hold their audience, hoping to be up 4 or 5%, hoping to be able to hang around there. We were up 52% over last January, and last January was up a lot. It's tough to compete against yourself. At some point, I think we're going to run out of growth potential, certainly at these numbers, but I want to thank all of you for spreading the news about Outkick and leading to us growing at such a massive rate. Finally, go to Outkick, go into the store. We're raising money for the rest of the week for Tennessee tornado victims. All you have to do is go into the Outkick store. Anything you buy, we're going to put the proceeds toward tornado recovery for the Nashville area, for the Cookeville area, for everybody impacted, the 25 deaths, all of that region. We are going to try to put some money to good work. You can go to Outkick.com, go into our store, and check all of that out. I appreciate all of you. My name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. I'm going on for my television show here in a couple of minutes, and I appreciate all of you for hanging out with us. Check out the show tomorrow. It should be a lot of fun. Also, James Franklin joining me later today on the podcast should be an outstanding addition for wins and losses. If you haven't subscribed to our podcast exclusive, he is going to be the guest this week. Penn State's football coach should be pretty outstanding. Kisses, DBAP unless you need to SBAP. My name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. I appreciate all of you. Have a good Wednesday. I'll talk to you on TV and then on radio tomorrow morning. See y'all. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. See y'all.